Hello Dub Nation, it's always a thrill to connect with you, especially as we're about to reveal the latest news that could shape the fate of our beloved Golden State Warriors. But before we dive into this whirlwind of information, let me make a friendly request. Show us some love by clicking the like button to strengthen our bond, and hey, if you are not subscribed yet, join our channel for a thrilling and emotional journey. Don't forget to turn on notifications to stay ahead of the game.
The Warriors have a Buddy Hield problem that just won't go away. Buddy needs to step it up, fast. Since joining the Golden State Warriors last season, Buddy Hield's unpredictable nature has been on full display, and now it's becoming a familiar headache for the franchise early in this campaign. For nearly a decade, Hield has been one of the league's elite three-point shooters, a player defenders can never ignore. But this year, it's been rough. Through 7 games, he's averaging just 6.9 points per game, shooting 40% from the field and a disappointing 28.1% from deep. Simply put, his shot isn't falling, and it's starting to cost the Warriors. While Golden State doesn't rely on him quite as heavily as they did during last season's playoff run, they still need Hield to provide reliable offense off the bench. And right now, that's not happening. The Warriors currently rank 25th in the NBA in bench scoring, thanks in large part to Hield's struggles, and the inconsistency of others, especially after Jonathan Kuminga's move into the starting lineup. The frustrating part? We know Hield can do it. He dropped 33 points in Game 7 of last year's playoff series, a reminder of what he's capable of when he's locked in. But for every breakout performance, there seem to be multiple cold stretches where he becomes a non-factor, or worse, a liability. That's exactly what's happening right now. His minutes are down, nearly 6 fewer per game compared to his first year in Golden State. And while Steve Kerr has less reason to ride out his shooting slumps, the team's bench offense continues to sputter without a spark. The Warriors need Hield to find his rhythm, and soon. Otherwise, they may have no choice but to explore external options. With DeAnthony Melton nearing a return from injury and Seth Curry expected back in the rotation, Hield's playing time could shrink even further. At that point, moving his $9.2 million salary in a trade might start to look like the smartest play. Make no mistake, Golden State needs more from Buddy Hield in the short term, but for the 32-year-old sharpshooter, this stretch could also determine his long-term future with the franchise. The Warriors have a Buddy Hield problem that just won't go away. Buddy Hield needs to step up, and soon. Since joining the Golden State Warriors last season, Hield's inconsistency has become increasingly evident. What once looked like a short-term adjustment phase now feels like a recurring issue that the team can no longer ignore. For nearly a decade, Hield has earned a reputation as one of the NBA's most respected three-point shooters. But early this season, his production has fallen far below expectations. He's averaging just 6.9 points per game, shooting 40% from the field and 28.1% from beyond the arc through 7 appearances. That kind of drop-off is concerning for a player whose value relies almost entirely on outside shooting. And for Golden State, it's more than a statistical slump, it's a structural problem. While the Warriors no longer depend on Hield as heavily as they did during last year's playoff run, he remains one of the few reliable scoring options off the bench. Unfortunately, his current shooting woes have coincided with one of the team's weakest bench performances in recent years. Golden State currently ranks 25th in the NBA in bench scoring, a direct reflection of underwhelming performances from Hield and several of his rotation counterparts. The inconsistency has always been part of the Hield experience. He's capable of explosive nights, like his 33-point outburst in Game 7 of last season's first-round playoff win over the Rockets, a reminder of how dangerous he can be when he's in rhythm. But those high points are too often followed by prolonged cold stretches where he becomes a liability on both ends of the court. Right now, he's in one of those cold stretches. His minutes have been reduced by nearly 6 per game compared to last season, signaling a loss of trust from head coach Steve Kerr. While that eases the burden of enduring his off nights, it does little to solve the Warriors' broader issue, a second unit that can't consistently generate offense. Growing pressure and real consequences. According to multiple reports, the organization is aware of the issue. Hield's inconsistent shooting, coupled with the bench's lack of scoring punch, has prompted early internal discussions about possible mid-season adjustments. With DeAnthony Melton nearing a return from injury and Seth Curry expected back in the rotation soon, Hield's role could shrink even further. If that happens, moving his $9.2 million salary before the trade deadline becomes a realistic scenario. League insiders have already begun speculating that Golden State could package Hield in a deal to acquire a more consistent perimeter threat or an athletic wing who fits better within the team's defensive schemes. For Hield, the situation is becoming increasingly urgent. At 32, he's no longer a developing player finding his place. He's expected to deliver consistency and veteran reliability. His recent near-miss in the NBA three-point contest earlier this year served as a reminder of his potential, but in regular season play, that same accuracy has yet to reappear. What's at stake for the Warriors? The implications extend beyond one player. The Warriors' identity has always been built on spacing, ball movement, and the ability to punish opponents from deep. When one of their premier shooters falters, the entire offensive rhythm suffers. In the coming weeks, Kerr and the coaching staff are expected to experiment with new lineup combinations to restore balance. That could include more minutes for Moses Moody or Brandon Podziemski, younger guards who have shown flashes of defensive intensity and scoring versatility. Still, the ideal scenario for Golden State is one where Hield regains his confidence and rhythm. His spacing, veteran experience, and streaky scoring ability can still make a difference in critical stretches, especially if the team manages to stay in contention in a competitive Western Conference. The road ahead. Buddy Hield's story with the Warriors is reaching a defining chapter. His explosive potential is undeniable, but potential alone doesn't win games. Golden State needs him to be more than a specialist. They need him to be dependable. If he can find his shooting touch and re-establish himself as a consistent offensive weapon, the Warriors' bench could transform from a weakness into a strength. If not, both Hield and the franchise may soon have to face a difficult decision about their future together. Jonathan Kuminga is creating the kind of problem the Warriors could only dream of. Having this kind of problem is what every NBA team secretly hopes for. Right now, Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors are perfectly in sync, a sentence that would have sounded unbelievable just a few months ago, considering all the noise surrounding his contract situation during the preseason. Kuminga is doing exactly what the Warriors have been waiting for, playing with confidence, energy, and purpose. In return, he's finally getting the role and minutes he's long deserved. The result? The best kind of problem any franchise could have imagined when they signed the 22-year-old forward to a 2-year, $48.5 million extension earlier this month. Kuminga is rapidly raising his market value. Kuminga isn't just helping Golden State win games, he's elevating his market value with every performance. That's where the problem comes in. Many assumed the Warriors would explore trade options once he became eligible again on January 15th. But if he keeps playing like this, and if the Warriors keep winning, it's hard to imagine the front office daring to break up that chemistry. Still, things in the NBA are rarely that simple. Kuminga's rise could open doors to trade opportunities that previously seemed unrealistic, especially if rival teams start making intriguing players available that weren't on the radar before. A good problem to have. The list of players Golden State would even consider trading Kuminga for is shrinking fast. Yet that only makes things more interesting. It could expand the range of potential deals where the Warriors don't have to sacrifice future draft picks. It's a fascinating dilemma. Kuminga's breakout could make him both too valuable to trade and too valuable to ignore in big-picture roster discussions. But let's be honest, this is a much better situation than the alternative, where he'd be buried on the bench and his value would plummet. Trade talk can wait. For now, a blockbuster mid-season trade looks unlikely. The Warriors aren't moving on from Kuminga, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, or Stephen Curry anytime soon, which leaves limited flexibility for major salary matching trades. That said, Kuminga's emergence gives Golden State something priceless: leverage. His performance has turned heads around the league and reminded everyone just how dangerous this team can be when its young talent starts to flourish. Jonathan Kuminga and the Warriors' Perfect Problem Part 2. Behind the scenes, Jonathan Kuminga's contract extension with the Golden State Warriors marked not only the end of a long negotiation process, but also the beginning of a new phase of responsibility for both the player and the franchise. After an off-season filled with uncertainty, during which Kuminga sought a clearer role and greater recognition, the young forward agreed to a 2-year, $48.5 million extension. That deal symbolized a fresh start. Kuminga entered the new season more mature, confident, and focused, something that hasn't gone unnoticed by teammates and coaches alike. Draymond Green has praised his defensive growth and his ability to impact both ends of the floor. Head coach Steve Kerr has also pointed out that Kuminga finally understands what it means to play within the Warriors system, a shift that, according to him, has made all the difference. With this newfound consistency, Kuminga has transformed from a potential trade asset into a cornerstone for the team's immediate future. The front office, once considering including him in deals, now views him as a strategic piece, someone who could bridge the gap between the Stephen Curry era and the next generation of Warriors basketball. Impact on and off the court. Kuminga's rise has completely reshaped how Golden State approaches its roster construction. Instead of desperately chasing veteran reinforcements, the team now embraces a balance between youth and experience. This shift provides long-term flexibility and reduces the pressure to pursue major trades during the season. However, this evolution also brings new challenges. With increased playing time and a larger role comes higher expectations. Kuminga must now prove that he can sustain his high level of play against elite competition, particularly in clutch situations. Consistency in big games will be the ultimate test of his maturity. Ripple effects across the league. Kuminga's emergence has also influenced the broader NBA landscape. Teams that once viewed him as a potential trade target are now reassessing their plans, while others are starting to see Golden State differently, not as a fading powerhouse, but as a franchise in transition with valuable assets. Within the locker room, Kuminga's success has reinvigorated the team's belief. Veterans acknowledge that his energy and athleticism provide something the Warriors have lacked in recent seasons: explosiveness and versatility. His ability to attack the rim, defend multiple positions, and run the floor adds a new dynamic that perfectly complements Curry's cerebral playmaking and Green's defensive intensity. What comes next? Kuminga's future with the Warriors is still being written, but one thing is clear: he has become indispensable. The perfect problem the franchise now faces is the kind every contender dreams of, whether to keep a rapidly developing young star or use him as leverage in a blockbuster move. If his progress continues at this pace, the answer might be obvious: Jonathan Kuminga won't be traded. He could very well be the bridge between the Warriors' golden past and whatever comes next. The Warriors are learning a tough lesson they'll need to address following Jonathan Kuminga's promotion to the starting lineup. Is this becoming a growing concern? Despite Thursday night's 120-110 loss to the Milwaukee Bucks, Kuminga's inclusion in the starting five has been a clear boost for both him and the Golden State Warriors at the start of the season. However, the team is quickly realizing the trade-offs. With the talented young forward in the starting lineup, Golden State's bench is struggling to provide consistent offensive firepower. The Warriors are averaging just 34.2 points per game from their reserves, ranking 23rd in the league this season. The heavy reliance on Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Kuminga was particularly evident in Thursday's defeat. Curry 27, Kuminga 24, and Butler 23, combined for 74 of Golden State's 110 points against the Bucks. No other player reached double digits, while Milwaukee, even without Giannis Antetokounmpo, had 8 players score in double figures. That said, with Curry and Butler guaranteed significant court time when healthy, the lack of bench scoring may not prevent the Warriors from remaining one of the top teams in the Western Conference. In fact, Kuminga's emergence as a legitimate third scoring option far outweighs the bench's struggles in terms of early season development. Still, this doesn't mean Golden State shouldn't try to address their reserve issues. Some of the bench struggles stem from individual shooting form. Buddy Hield is shooting 41.5% from the field, but only 28.6% from three-point range, while Moses Moody is at 35.7% in his 4 games since returning from a calf injury. Even the Warriors' 2 primary big men, Quinton Post and Al Horford, are combining for just 36.4% shooting from the field this season. There's clearly room for improvement, but it's important to remember these players are finishers, not creators. They thrive as catch-and-shoot threats, relying on Curry and Butler to generate opportunities, rather than being primary playmakers themselves. Kuminga used to offer this creation ability off the bench, but there's no realistic chance the Warriors will adjust the starting lineup or disrupt the 23-year-old's rhythm just to compensate for bench scoring. Do the Warriors need a reserve who can reliably put points on the board when needed? It's not an urgent necessity right now, but it's certainly a storyline worth monitoring as the season progresses. Building on this, the Warriors' bench struggles have begun to draw attention not just from fans, but from analysts and opposing teams. The lack of reliable scoring beyond Curry, Butler, and Kuminga could become a focal point in playoff matchups, where defensive schemes often tighten and star players face double teams more frequently. Opponents are likely to exploit this weakness by daring the bench to carry the offense, potentially forcing the starters into heavier minutes and increasing fatigue over the course of the season. The situation also raises questions about the team's roster construction. Golden State's front office may need to evaluate whether acquiring a bench scorer or developing current reserves into more versatile offensive threats should be prioritized. While the bench has shown flashes of potential, inconsistency in shooting and playmaking has left the team vulnerable in high-pressure situations, as evidenced in Thursday's loss to the Bucks. From a developmental perspective, Kuminga's promotion to the starting lineup is clearly a positive, signaling the franchise's commitment to nurturing young talent. His ability to contribute immediately as a third scorer demonstrates the value of giving young players meaningful roles. However, this decision comes with trade-offs, highlighting the delicate balance between player development and team depth. For the coaching staff, the challenge will be integrating the bench effectively without disrupting the chemistry of the starters. Maximizing the productivity of reserves like Buddy Hield, Moses Moody, Quinton Post, and Al Horford will require tactical adjustments, more off-ball movement, and opportunities to create their own shots rather than relying solely on Curry and Butler. The repercussions of these dynamics may extend into the broader Western Conference race. Teams with more balanced benches could have an advantage in back-to-back games or during long stretches of the schedule, potentially giving them a slight edge over a Warriors team whose scoring is concentrated among 3 players. In short, while Golden State's early season form has been promising thanks to Kuminga's emergence, the team is facing a learning curve that could have lasting implications. Addressing bench production and managing the workload of the starters will be critical if the Warriors hope to sustain their position as a contender deep into the season and into the playoffs. If you want, I can take this and transform it into a fully polished, media-ready feature article that combines analysis, player development insights, and potential playoff implications. This would make it feel like a high-profile NBA feature piece. Do you want me to do that? The Warriors face a harsh reality about Payton II, a reality that should have come sooner. Playing time is becoming scarce. Although Payton II's minutes have fluctuated since his significant contributions to the Warriors' 2022 championship run, the veteran guard has long been a favorite of Steve Kerr's. That loyalty may be fading. The coaching staff and front office have come to a brutal realization: Payton is no longer the defensive force he once was. Many observers argue this conclusion should have been reached much earlier, given the limited impact he has had since returning to the franchise via the mid-season trade deadline in 2023. The Warriors' tough but necessary decision to prioritize younger players over Payton has already begun to take shape. Over the past 2 games, the 32-year-old has been left out of the rotation in the second half. After consistently playing at least 7 minutes in each of the first 4 games of the season, Payton logged just over 5 minutes in the first half against the LA Clippers at the Chase Center on Tuesday. He did not return in the second half, a decision that appears justified, as the team fell behind by 17 points while he was on the floor. Against the Milwaukee Bucks on Thursday, Payton played just over 3 minutes in the first half, the least among the 12 Warriors who saw action during a surprising 120-110 loss at the Fiserv Forum. Even as Golden State struggled to contain former guard Ryan Rollins, who delivered a career-high 32 points and 8 assists, Kerr opted not to reinsert Payton in the second half, despite his reputation as the team's best perimeter defender. If the Warriors are unwilling to deploy him in high-stakes defensive situations, Payton's opportunities for meaningful minutes are likely to remain extremely limited. With DeAnthony Melton nearing a return from injury and the expected addition of Seth Curry in the coming month, his already constrained playing time could shrink further, possibly to the point of missing games entirely. This outcome should not come as a complete surprise. Payton was one of the last players to secure a spot on the roster, following the resolution of Jonathan Kuminga's free agency. Meanwhile, the emergence of rookie Will Richard has been a game-changer, cutting into Payton's minutes. Richard played nearly 12 minutes against the Bucks and now averages more than 5 minutes per game over the veteran. For Payton, the message is clear: he is no longer viewed as a fixture in the rotation. Every remaining opportunity to impress, especially before Melton returns, is critical if he hopes to alter the coaching staff's perception and regain a consistent role on the team. The situation with Payton also raises broader questions about the Warriors' defensive identity and depth. With key perimeter defenders like DeAnthony Melton returning and the likely addition of Seth Curry, the team is signaling a shift toward a younger, more versatile defensive lineup. This move could have long-term implications not just for Payton, but for the balance of the roster and the way Kerr manages rotations. Analysts and fans have noted that the reduced role for Payton reflects a strategic evolution. The Warriors are prioritizing players who can contribute on both ends of the floor consistently, especially in a league increasingly focused on three-point shooting and pace. While Payton's defensive acumen is still respected, the team appears willing to accept a temporary dip in perimeter defense in exchange for greater offensive flexibility and floor spacing. The repercussions for Payton personally are significant. Beyond his minutes, his visibility and influence on the team are diminishing. For a veteran known for his defensive leadership and championship experience, this is a stark reminder that even proven players must continually adapt or risk being edged out. Payton now faces a critical period where each practice and minute on the court could define the remainder of his tenure with Golden State. For the Warriors, this decision also sends a message to other veterans and younger players alike. Performance, adaptability, and fit within the team's evolving system will determine playing time. It emphasizes that past contributions, while respected, do not guarantee a permanent role. This could influence locker room dynamics, motivation, and the competitive environment during the season. As the season progresses, all eyes will be on how Kerr integrates returning players like Melton and newcomers like Curry, and whether Payton can redefine his role. If he fails to capitalize on limited opportunities, it may solidify the perception that his time as a core rotational piece has passed. Conversely, a strong showing in the coming weeks could revive his standing and extend his career with a team contending for another championship. The Warriors are at a crossroads, balancing veteran experience with emerging talent, redefining defensive priorities, and ensuring that each player's role aligns with the team's championship aspirations. For Gary Payton II, the clock is ticking, and the coming weeks may prove decisive in determining whether he remains part of the Warriors' immediate future or becomes another veteran casualty in a rapidly evolving roster.